The invitation John was an ordinary human. He lived on Earth, working as an engineer, and he loved to read about space and faraway planets. But never in his life did he think he would leave Earth. His life was normal, boring even, until one strange day changed everything. It started with a knock on his door. When John opened it, no one was there, but on the ground lay a small silver box. Curious, he picked it up. The box felt warm in his hands. He opened it slowly, and inside was a golden card. The card was beautiful. The words on it glowed softly in the light. It said, "You are invited to the royal wedding of Princess Lyria on planet Zalara. Your presence is required." John blinked. A royal wedding? Planet Zalara? Was this a joke? He had never heard of such a place. He turned the card over, but there was nothing else written on it. Suddenly, a voice spoke. But no one was there. Accept the invitation. Transport will arrive in 1 hour. John felt a chill. The voice was calm but serious. Should he go? This felt crazy, but something deep inside him said yes. Maybe this was the adventure he always dreamed about. Exactly 1 hour later, a strange light appeared outside his house. It was a shining silver sphere, floating quietly above the ground. A door on the sphere opened, and inside was a soft blue glow. Without thinking too much, John took a deep breath and stepped inside. The door closed behind him, and the sphere lifted into the sky. John felt no movement, no noise. But outside the window he saw the stars rushing past, faster than he could understand. He was leaving Earth as soon. A planet appeared, a beautiful planet with 2 moons and shining oceans. The sphere slowed down and gently landed in a garden, filled with glowing flowers and trees that hummed softly. Alien guards stood waiting for him. They were tall, dressed in silver armor, with bright blue eyes and smooth skin. Without speaking, they gestured for him to follow. John walked with them through the garden and toward a massive palace. The palace was made of crystal and light. It shimmered under the moons like it was a live dot. As he entered the palace gates, John felt many alien eyes watching him. Strange creatures stood everywhere, tall beings with long limbs, short ones with colorful skin, creatures with wings, and others he could not even describe. But they all stared at him, the only human here. Inside, the air smelled sweet, like flowers he had never smelled before. Lights floated above his head. The floor was smooth and shining, reflecting everything like a mirror. Strange music played softly in the background. John's heart beat fast. Why was he here? He was just an ordinary man from Earth. Why would an alien princess invite him to her royal wedding? A guard stopped him near a huge door. "Wait here," the guard said in a deep voice. John stood silently, feeling nervous. The door slowly opened. Inside, the throne room was even more beautiful than he imagined. At the end of the long hall sat the king of Zalara, a tall alien with golden skin and a crown that floated above his head. Next to him sat a young woman. She was beautiful, even though she was clearly not human. Her skin was pale blue, and her long silver hair flowed down her shoulders. Her eyes glowed softly. She was the Princess Lyria, and she was looking directly at John. Their eyes met. John felt like she could see everything about him, his life, his thoughts, his heart. She smiled, but it was a mysterious smile, like she knew something he did not. The king stood and spoke in a strong, deep voice. "Welcome, human John of Earth. You honor us with your presence." John bowed politely, unsure what to say. "The wedding will begin soon," the king continued, "and you will sit in a place of honor." John was led to a special seat near the front of the grand hall. From here, he could see everything: the royal family, the alien guests, the decorations, and most of all, the princess. She kept glancing at him, her gaze calm but full of curiosity. The hall filled with alien nobles, all dressed in bright colors and strange clothes. The music grew louder, and the wedding ceremony began. John watched, amazed at every part. It was beautiful and strange at the same time, but in his heart, he felt uneasy. Why had he been invited? What was his role here? And most of all, why did the princess keep looking at him, like she had chosen him for something very important? John did not know that this was only the beginning. The true reason he was here would soon change his life forever. The grand grand hall was filled with lights and music. Strange alien instruments played soft sounds that John had never heard before. The air smelled sweet and fresh, and flowers from alien worlds decorated every corner. John sat in the seat of honor, near the front. Around him were alien nobles in colorful clothes. Some had wings, others had glowing eyes, and a few floated above their seats instead of sitting. Every one of them seemed curious about John, the only human at this wedding. At the far end of the hall, Princess Lyria sat on a golden chair. She wore a silver gown that shimmered with every color of the rainbow. Her long silver hair fell down her back, and her glowing blue eyes kept finding John's face again and again. Her smile was soft but strange, like she knew a secret. Beside her sat her soon-to-be husband, Prince Karuk of the Drulene. He was a tall, strong alien with red skin and sharp black horns. He looked proud, but also cold. His black eyes did not shine with kindness. Instead, they held power and control. The king of Zalara stood. He raised his hand, and the music stopped. "Today, my daughter, Princess Lyria, will join with Prince Karuk," the king said. "This bond will bring peace between our worlds." Everyone clapped in the strange Zalaran way by touching their hands to their hearts. But as John watched, he noticed something odd. Princess Lyria's face did not look happy. She smiled politely, but there was a sadness in her eyes. Every now and then, she glanced quickly at John as if she was searching for help or courage. John felt his heart beat faster. Why was she looking at him this way? The wedding priest, a tall alien wrapped in golden robes, stepped forward. "Let the joining ceremony begin," the priest said loudly. The priest handed a glowing silver chain to the princess and the prince. They were supposed to hold it together to show their bond. But just as Princess Lyria reached out her hand, she froze. Her eyes locked on John's. Then, in front of the entire hall, she did something no one expected. She dropped the silver chain. Gasps echoed around the hall. The music stopped completely. Prince Karuk's face turned dark with anger. Princess Lyria stood up, tall and graceful. Her voice rang clear and strong. "I reject this bond," she said. "I will not marry Prince Karuk." The hall exploded in noise. Nobles shouted. The king rose from his throne, shocked. Prince Karuk's face twisted with rage. But before anyone could speak again, Princess Lyria raised her hand for silence. Everyone grew quiet. She pointed directly at John. "I choose him," she said. "I choose the human." John froze. The entire hall turned to stare at him. His heart raced. He did not understand what was happening. Why would she choose him? The king's face turned pale gold. His voice was cold and hard. "Explain yourself, my daughter," he demanded. Princess Lyria turned to her father. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with determination. "I have studied humans for many years. I have seen their kindness, their strength, and their courage. Our future depends on this choice. I will marry the human, or no one." The hall went completely silent. John could hardly breathe. He felt like the floor might fall out from under him. Was this a dream, a test, or something far more dangerous? Prince Karuk stepped forward, fury in his voice. "This is an insult to me and my people. He is nothing but a weak earth creature, a human." But the princess did not back down. She looked at John again, and her look was full of both hope and challenge. John's mind spun. Why him? What was this really about? Was this love, or something else? At that moment, the king raised his hand to stop Prince Karuk. "Enough," the king said. His golden eyes turned toward John. "Human John of Earth, do you accept my daughter's choice?" The question hung in the air like a heavy stone. Everyone in the hall waited for his answer. John swallowed hard. He had come here just as a guest, a stranger from another world. But now he was at the center of something far greater. His next words would decide his future, and perhaps the future of two worlds. The unexpected declaration. The entire hall waited, silent and tense. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at John. Some were angry, some curious, but all waited for his answer. John's heart pounded. His mouth felt dry. He was just an ordinary human, from Earth, a visitor who did not even know why he had been invited. And now the alien princess had chosen him in front of her entire royal court. But before John could speak, Princess Lyria stepped forward boldly. Before he gives his answer, she said, her voice clear, the truth must be known. The king narrowed his glowing golden eyes. What truth? He demanded. Princess Lyria turned to face everyone in the hall. For years, our scientists have predicted a terrible future for Zalara, she began. A future of war and destruction. Unless we change our ways. Gasps spread through the room. The nobles whispered to each other, confused and worried. I have studied many species. Lyria continued, her voice growing stronger. But only humans have what we lack: kindness, courage, and the ability to adapt. If we continue as we are, we will fall. But if I bond with a human, we can learn and survive. John sat frozen. His mind raced. This was not about love. This was about survival. This is why I chose him, she declared. This is not just marriage, it is our hope. The king's face grew pale. He had never expected such a declaration. His daughter was challenging tradition, power, and politics all at once. Prince Karuk snarled, stepping forward again. Hope, he shouted, you insult me and my people with this choice. No alien, especially not a human, can replace me. The alien. Guests began arguing loudly. Some shouted their support for Karuk, while others looked thoughtful, even fearful. The entire hall felt like it might explode into chaos at any moment. But then something strange happened. John stood. His voice shook at first, but he spoke anyway. I didn't expect this, he said honestly. I didn't come here to take anyone's place or insult anyone. But if what the princess says is true, then maybe this is more than just a wedding. Everyone fell silent again. John took a deep breath. I don't know your customs, he continued, but I do know that if you want change, if you want hope, it always begins with something unexpected. Princess Lyria smiled softly. Her glowing eyes met John's, and for a moment, he felt that maybe he could trust her. But then the king spoke again, his voice cold and strong. Human, he said, words are easy, deeds are harder. My daughter speaks of hope. But this court must be convinced. If you truly accept her choice, you must prove your worth. John felt a chill. You will face the king's test, the king announced. 3 trials. If you pass, you will have my blessing. If you fail, he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Everyone understood. The nobles nodded and murmured approval. Prince Karuk crossed his arms and smiled darkly. Let the trials begin at dawn, the king ordered. Guards approached John and gently led him away. While Princess Lyria watched him go, she said nothing, but her gaze told him everything. This was only the beginning. John now realized he was not just a guest at a strange wedding. He was now the key to Zalara's future and maybe its survival. As he was taken to a quiet chamber to rest before the trials, one final thought entered his mind. What have I gotten myself into? The princess's secret. John sat alone in a quiet chamber. The soft glow of the alien walls gave the room an unreal feeling. His mind was spinning. In one day, he had traveled across the stars, attended a royal alien wedding, been chosen as the bridegroom, and now was about to face the king's test. He could not sleep. Suddenly, a soft knock came at the door. Before he could answer, the door slid open silently. Princess Lyria entered, her silver gown flowing behind her. Her blue skin shimmered in the dim light, and her glowing eyes looked both tired and sad. John, she whispered, we must talk before the trials begin. John stood up, surprised. He had so many questions, but before he could speak, Lyria held up her hand. Listen carefully, she said, stepping closer. Her voice was soft but full of emotion. I did not choose you by chance. I have watched you, studied you from afar for many years. John frowned, confused. You watch me? He asked. Why me? I'm just an ordinary man from Earth. Lyria smiled gently, but there was pain behind her smile. That's exactly why, she said. You are an ordinary human, yet your people have done extraordinary things. Earth's history is full of mistakes, but also full of courage, hope, and change. She walked over to a crystal table and touched its surface. A glowing image appeared. Images of Earth, crowded cities, busy streets, humans helping each other, laughing, working, fighting, surviving. For generations, Lyria continued. Our world has grown cold and proud. We forgot how to change. We became rigid. And soon, we will fall. John listened quietly. For the first time, he saw that this was about far more than just a marriage. Our scientists have predicted that within 100 years, Zalara will face disaster. Lyria said, our alliances will break. Our people will turn against each other, unless... She turned to face John directly, her eyes glowing brighter. Unless we learn to evolve, to feel again, to embrace imperfection and change. That is what humans can teach us. John was silent. This was not about love, it was about saving an entire world. But why marry me? He asked finally. Lyria stepped even closer. Because I needed to show my people something bold, she whispered. Something they could not ignore. Choosing you, a human, was the most shocking choice I could make. It forces them to see that change is possible. Her hand gently touched his arm. I will not force you to accept this, she said. But if you choose to stay, you will not be alone. Together, we can give my people hope. John felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity. Just yesterday, he was fixing machines on Earth. Now, an alien princess was asking him to help save her world, not with weapons, but by showing her people how to live, feel, and change. Before he could answer, a loud gong rang through the palace. The king's voice echoed in the chamber. Human John of Earth, the time of the trials has come. Lyria's eyes locked on his one more time. Whatever happens, she said softly, remember this, I did not choose you to test your strength, I chose you for your heart. She turned and quickly left the room, her gown trailing behind her like a river of silver. John stood alone again, but everything had changed. This was no longer just a strange adventure. Now he understood the weight of the moment. His courage, kindness, and heart would be tested, not just his body. As the door opened for the guards to escort him to the first trial, John felt a surprising feeling deep inside him, hope. The king's test. John followed the silent alien guards through long crystal halls. The air felt heavy, and his heart pounded in his chest. He could still hear Princess Lyria's last words in his mind. I chose you for your heart. But right now, he felt uncertain. What if his human heart was not enough? The guards led him into a vast chamber. The walls sparkled like stars, and in the center was the king himself, standing tall, his golden crown floating above his head. Hundreds of alien nobles watched from high balconies, whispering among themselves. Their glowing eyes were full of curiosity and doubt. The king raised his staff and spoke in a loud, deep voice, Human John of Earth, today you will face the 3 trials. If you succeed, you may claim my daughter's hand. If you fail, he did not finish the sentence, but the threat was clear. John took a deep breath. He nodded. I accept, he said simply. The king smiled faintly. Let the first trial begin, he declared. The trial of courage. The floor opened beneath John, and he was lowered into a dark, underground arena. The air smelled damp and strange. The walls glowed faintly with blue light. Suddenly, a loud growl echoed through the chamber. From the shadows, a massive beast appeared, a creature with 6 legs, sharp fangs, and glowing red eyes. It was unlike anything John had ever seen. The nobles above watched in silence. A voice boomed from above. Face the beast. Show your courage. John felt fear rush through him, but he remembered Lyria's words. This was not about fighting with anger. This was about courage. He stood his ground. When the beast lunged at him, John didn't attack. Instead, he raised his hands slowly and spoke calmly. I am not your enemy, he said. His voice was steady. The beast stopped, confused. It sniffed the air around John. Slowly, John reached out his hand. The crowd above gasped. The beast leaned forward and gently touched its nose to John's palm. The trial master's voice rang out. The human has passed the trial of courage. The crowd murmured in shock. No one had expected this. The trial of wisdom. John was led into another room, a round chamber filled with floating puzzles, glowing symbols, and shifting walls. Solve this ancient puzzle, the king ordered, or fail. John studied the strange symbols. They looked alien, but some patterns felt familiar. He realized the puzzle was not about knowledge, but about seeing connections. He calmed his mind, took his time, and followed patterns of light and shape. After many tense minutes, he found the final key. He pressed it. The entire room glowed bright and the puzzle disappeared. The nobles clapped in surprise. The human has passed the trial of wisdom, the king announced. John felt a rush of relief, but he knew one trial remained. The trial of heart this time. The king himself spoke directly to John. This final trial will not test your body or mind. It will test your heart. A door opened and Princess Lyria stepped forward. Next to her stood Prince Karuk, his arms crossed, glaring at John. The king pointed at John. You must choose, he said. You may leave now, return to Earth with riches and freedom, or stay here forever as my daughter's husband and future Prince of Zalara. The hall grew silent. All eyes watched. John froze. The choice was his. He could leave and never face this strange world again, or stay and accept this incredible responsibility. He looked at Lyria. Her face showed no fear, only hope. John took a deep breath. His heart knew the answer. I choose to stay, he said clearly, not for riches, not for power, but because she believes we can change this world together. The hall erupted in shouts and whispers. The king smiled for the first time. The human has passed the trial of heart, he declared. John felt a strange peace. He was no longer just a guest. He was now part of this alien world and ready to face whatever came next. The final choice at Grand Hall was still filled with whispers after John's final words. He had passed all three trials. He had shown courage, wisdom, and heart, qualities the Zalaran people had forgotten long ago. The king rose from his crystal throne, his golden skin glowing softly under the twin moons shining through the palace windows. Human John of Earth, he said slowly, you have done what no one expected. You have earned my respect. John bowed slightly, feeling nervous but proud. But then the king's face turned serious, and yet, the king added, there is one final choice, one that is even more difficult than the trials. The entire hall grew silent again. Even Princess Lyria looked uncertain now. The king stepped down from his throne and stood before John. You may take my daughter's hand and become part of this royal family, he said, but you must accept the cost that comes with it. John frowned. What cost? He asked carefully. The king gestured to the sky beyond the crystal walls. If you stay, he explained, you will never return to Earth, never see your home, your friends, or your family again. Zalara will be your new home forever. The words hit John like a shock. Until now, he had thought of this as a strange adventure, a chance to help, maybe even love. But this was real and final. He looked around the hall. Alien eyes watched him. They waited for his answer. He turned to Princess Lyria. Her glowing blue eyes met his with both hope and sadness. John, she said softly, I will not ask you to give up your world unless you truly wish to. I know this is a hard choice. John's heart raced. Could he leave everything he knew behind? Could he give up Earth forever for a people he had only just met? For a princess he barely knew? But then he remembered all he had seen here, the rigid traditions, the proud nobles, the cold future Lyria spoke of. These people needed something new. They needed hope. They needed change. Maybe he could give that to them. He took a deep breath. I will stay, he said firmly. I will become part of Zalara. I will stand beside Princess Lyria, not just as her husband, but as a bridge between our worlds. A long pause followed. Then, slowly, the king smiled. Then you are no longer just a guest, he declared. You are now part of Zalara's royal family. From this day forward, you will be known as Prince John of Earth. The crowd erupted in cheers. Even some of the skeptical nobles clapped with respect. But Prince Karuk stood silently at the edge of the hall, his dark eyes watching John with cold anger. His story was not over. Not yet. Princess Lyria stepped forward and gently took John's hand. Her touch was warm, comforting. Thank you, she whispered. You have done more than you know. John felt peace settle over him, but deep inside, he knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, danger still waited. The true test of his choice had yet to come. For now, though, the wedding would go on. The alien guests clapped. The strange music began again. and the ceremony continued. But this time, John was no longer just an outsider. He was part of their future. The new groomed alien music filled the grand hall once more. But this time it sounded different, softer, more hopeful. The crowd of nobles and strange alien guests stood as the king himself walked to the front, holding the royal seal in his hand. John stood beside Princess Lyraya, his heart beating fast. Just hours ago, he had been a visitor, unsure why he was even here. Now he stood as her chosen groom, a symbol of change for an entire world. But even in this moment, he could feel the heavy gaze of Prince Karak from across the room. Karak's anger was hidden behind a polite mask, but John could sense that this rivalry was not over. The king raised his voice, loud and clear. From this day forward, let all of Zalara know, John of Earth is one of us. He is the chosen mate of my daughter, and the new prince of Zalara. The crowd erupted in cheers. The nobles clapped with their hands on their chests, the traditional Zalaran way to show respect. Floating lights above the hall swirled and danced in beautiful patterns. But as John looked around, he realized something deeper. His life on Earth was truly behind him now. His future was here, among these aliens who had once looked at him as a stranger. Princess Lyraya stepped forward and gently placed a ceremonial silver chain round his neck, a symbol of his new status. She smiled at him, her glowing blue eyes filled with warmth and relief. "Thank you for staying," she whispered. John smiled back, but his mind was full of questions. What challenges would come next? How would he help this proud but fragile society learn what it meant to change, to grow, to care? Would the aliens truly accept him, or would some still try to push him away? Even now, he could see nobles whispering behind their elegant masks, and Prince Karak quietly leaving the hall. There would be tests ahead, political games, and maybe worse. But for this moment, John let himself feel peace. He was no longer an outsider. He was Prince John of Zalara. The ceremony continued. Alien dancers moved gracefully across the floor, performing an ancient dance that celebrated new beginnings. The two moons of Zalara shone through the crystal ceiling, casting silver light over everything. When the dance ended, the king approached John once more. "You may have passed my trials," he said quietly, "but your true test begins now. My daughter believes in you, and for that, so must I lead wisely." John nodded, understanding the weight of the task before him. This was not just a marriage, it was a promise. As the celebrations continued into the night, John looked at Princess Lyraya beside him and finally spoke softly. "Whatever comes next, we will face it together." Lyraya smiled gently and took his hand, and far away, hidden in the shadows, Prince Karak watched with cold eyes, his mind already plotting his next move. The shadow thread celebrations lasted late into the Zalaran night. Music echoed through the crystal palace, and the two moons bathed everything in silver light. For most of the guests, this was the end, a happy ending to a royal wedding no one expected. But for John, this was only the beginning. As he walked with Princess Lyraya through the palace gardens, she smiled, holding his hand gently. Flowers glowed softly round them, and the cool wind carried a strange but sweet scent. "Are you happy?" she asked softly. John nodded. "I think so," he said. "But I can't help but feel something isn't over yet." Before Lyraya could answer, a shadow moved nearby. From behind a glowing tree, a tall figure stepped out. It was Prince Karok. His face was calm but cold, and his dark eyes locked onto John. "Congratulations, Prince John," Karak said slowly, "but do not think your trials are over." John tensed. He could feel the tension in the air. Karak stepped closer. "You may have won the king's blessing," he continued, "but not all of Zalara accepts you. Many still see you as an outsider, an intruder." Lyraya stood protectively beside John, but Karak ignored her. "Deep in the Forgotten Lands," Karak said in a low voice, "a true test awaits. The Council of Elders, the oldest and most powerful minds of Zalara, have already called a secret meeting." John frowned. "What do they want?" he asked. Karak smiled darkly. "They will decide whether your bond to Lyraya can truly be accepted, or if you must leave forever," he said. Lyraya's eyes widened in shock. "The council hasn't been called in generations," she whispered. They have power even the king cannot ignore. John's heart sank. After everything, the invitation, the trials, the wedding, his place here was still not secure. Carrick leaned closer. "Prepare yourself, human," he said quietly. "This was just the beginning. The real challenge starts now." With that, he turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving John and Lyria standing in silence under the twin moons. John looked at Lyria. "So, this council," he said carefully. "What do I need to know?" Lyria looked at him sadly but firmly. "They will not care about trials or ceremonies," she said. "They will look into your mind, your soul, and test the truth of your heart." John took a deep breath. Somehow, he felt ready. "Then we go together," he said calmly. Lyria smiled softly. "Yes," she whispered, "together." And so, as the night ended, John knew that while the wedding had made him a prince, his fight to truly belong was only beginning.